What's up everyone? Alex here. I don't know how many of you know this, but I'm a bit of a new Ys fan, having joined the fandom after playing the incredible Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana years ago. But as the specter of Ys 10 Nordics release faded, I was faced with another Ys game a few weeks later in the form of Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana. I have seen many fans in our community easily proclaim this as one of their favorite games in the series, even seeing one play through the Japanese release months ago. But with a little over 19 years separating between the releases of both of these mentioned games, one has to wonder, is Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana worth playing? Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana puts you in the role of Adol Kristin, in yet another chapter in his long-running story. The Oath in Felghana is, in actuality, a remake of Ys 3, complete with an expanded storyline and dungeons. In The Oath in Felghana, Adol and his companion Dogi return to the latter's homeland of Felghana and find it in disarray, with monsters terrorizing the countryside and a greedy ruler extorting the citizenry. The two find themselves engaged in Felghana's conspiracies and ancient legacies, as an epic journey awaits them. Before I begin talking about this game, I do want to set some expectations here. First and foremost, while The Oath in Felghana does feature a more expanded storyline, especially when compared to its original 1989 release, I want to set the expectation that this doesn't have the kind of intricate and multi-layered story that you come to expect from modern JRPGs. Instead, you'll find a mostly succinct storyline that manages to tell its story in the least amount of words, but still able to let you empathize with the characters that you'll meet. Frankly, this is the kind of storytelling that I miss in the modern era, though I will add that there will always be room for wordy prose in games. For Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana, though, the choice to have its storytelling done this way was to ensure that the players are thrown back into the action quickly, so you can actually spend more time playing the game. With all that said, because it's a remaster of a game originally released all the way back in 2005, there are conveniences that don't exist here. There's no main quest tracker to speak of, nor is there any way for you to be told where to go next. So when Dogi tells you to explore his hometown, for example, you'll have to wander a bit undirected until you trigger all of the important points, which are typically accompanied by voice dialogue. Nonetheless, these moments mostly happen in between dungeon runs, and thankfully, Dogi's town isn't huge. You can get from one part of town to another quickly. As I've mentioned, the core of anyone's experience with The Oath in Felghana will revolve around its gameplay, which was a shift from the original release 2D side-scrolling action to this top-down style, reminiscent of earlier Legend of Zelda games. I've compared Ys to the Zelda series well before I even played Ys 8, so that comparison might be confusing for fans of Nintendo's epic adventure who started with Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Adol has access to a sword attack, a dedicated jump button, and magic attacks. This is the kind of action RPG where you get to mash buttons as quickly as you can to defeat enemies if you prefer. And before I forget, I have to talk about how much fun it was exploring Oath in Felghana's dungeons. Again, temper your expectations here, given that this is a game from 2005. But it was such a joy exploring every possible hallway and corridor of each maze, finding treasure, loot, and mashing through hordes of enemies. This is one of those games that benefits from such a simplified combat system, unexpectedly giving a cozy vibe given how you can accomplish so much with very little. However, when it comes to fighting its bosses, you'll need to learn their nuances and use careful tactics to defeat them. As such, this is where a few of Ys Memoire's new features will come in handy to help new players. By today's standards, The Oath in Felghana's bosses can feel more punishing than other modern action RPGs, due in part because of the lower threshold in which it allows players to make mistakes. This remaster of Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana features multiple difficulty settings, the ability to run in more than the allowed 8-axis directions. This is huge, by the way, as well as several other quality of life features. All that said, I finished Ys Memoire, The Oath in Felghana in 12 hours, with deaths mind you, so it's not a lengthy adventure. I played through the entire thing on the normal difficulty, though if you keep dying repeatedly, the game does give you the option to drop the difficulty to make things easier, should you prefer. Personally, given how short the game is, I think it's worth sticking to the game's normal difficulty setting, especially since the game's already short enough as it is. It's the kind of game that I'd recommend you step away from it if you're frustrated, rather than bang your head against a boss to try and brute force it. Ys Memoire the Oath in Felghana does have experience points and leveling, but much like other Ys games, the best way to improve your damage and resilience is through your equipment. You'll have the option to either buy new gear or upgrade your existing gear for the cost of materials and money. I was actually pleasantly surprised to find out how much of this system was in place this early on. Apart from the aforementioned new features, Ys Memoire the Oath in Felghana also features a narrator for Adol, a turbo mode, 3 different soundtrack styles, which consists of an enhanced rendition of the original soundtrack from 2005, the PC 8801 version, as well as the X68000 version, and new refined portrait artwork, which you can swap between the original and this new one. You also have access to both English and Japanese voice acting, of course. All in all, I find that this trip back through memory lane, as a new Ys fan, was well worth taking. Sure, Ys Memoire the Oath in Felghana is not as lengthy as later Ys games, but it doesn't need that to be enjoyable. All a good Ys game needs to have is Adol and Dogi, great combat, fun dungeons to explore, and a pretty good story that'll take you from one place to another. And Ys Memoire the Oath in Felghana has all of these components and even a little bit more. With a short completion time, this is certainly an Ys adventure that you can either finish in a weekend or serve as a perfect side game to any of your lengthier adventures. Either way, it's the perfect companion piece for any discerning JRPG fan.